The questions that I do make are difficult. I make them hard on purpose, but they are not impossible because all you need to know are the basics, the fundamentals, and I do teach the fundamentals. Hello, my name is Mark, and today I'm going to be going over sample practice test number 2 for the IBEW Aptitude Test. This is just a sample. This is just a taste. A little itty bitty taste, because this presentation will only have 10 math questions and 3 reading comprehension questions. I recommend that you pause the video and work out the problem yourself before watching me do it. Guys, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel if you are not subscribed. And folks, my mission for YouTube, my mission statement, it's to create the largest library of free test prep on YouTube and to help as many people as I can. And that's any test prep. That's first for the IBEW. And I want to venture out to all test prep because the main goal is to break the paywall. And your boy plays video games. Make sure to check those out. I want to be your next comfort streamer where you go after work and you just put me on and watch me play video games. Anyway, let's just go ahead and start this video. Let's start this test with question number 1. Evaluate the formula for m, given this right here. Now, at first glance, I know what you're thinking.
What the?
Oh my gosh, right? Oh my gosh, what is this? This is kind of ridiculous, right? We have a fraction here, we have another fraction here, and we have a fraction over here, all a fraction here. All this a fraction. Oh my gosh. Okay, so there are many fractions in this formula, but never fear. There is nothing to fear. Do not be afraid. You know why? Because you know what to do, right? You know the fundamentals. The first thing I would do is I want to find a common denominator for this right here, right? The top is what I would work with first. And within the top, I see here the bottom, the denominators, they aren't the same. And in order to add and subtract denominators, or fractions, not denominators, you need to have a
common denominator.
Denominator. Yeah, that is a tongue twister of a word. Okay, see, look, we have a minus sign right here. There's a minus sign right here. That gives us a clue that we must have a common denominator for this fraction. So, what is the common denominator here? Well, the common denominator here is 12. And in order to get 12 from 4, we must multiply by 3. And what we do at the bottom, we must do at the top. So let me demonstrate here. So I'm going to put this in parentheses, and I'm going to put a 3 right here, okay? Because in order to get a 12, I must multiply by 3 here. Super small. Okay, and over here, the common denominator, again, is 12. And in order to get 12 from 6, I must multiply by 2. And what I do at the bottom, I must do at the top. It doesn't matter how I say it. It's actually what you do at the bottom, or what you do at the top, you must do at the bottom. What you do at the bottom, you must do at the top. So it's vice versa. Okay. Now that we have that, let's just write everything out so it looks like this. Okay? You could probably do this in your head when you have mastered this. Okay? You could do this really fast, what I'm writing out. So then you have this, everything over 12, okay? These are now combined because we have a common denominator. And now the first thing that I'm going to do here is I am going to distribute. Okay, I'm going to distribute. Okay, what is 3 times 3m? That is 9m. What is 3 times negative 2n? That is negative 6n. And then what is negative 2m or negative 2 times m? That is negative 2m. What is negative 2 times negative 3n? What happens when you multiply two negatives? That equals a positive. Okay, perfect. Everything is over 12. And then what I'm going to do is combine like terms at the top of the fraction, which is called the numerator. And then I see here, look at this negative 6n and this plus 6n. We could just cross these out, okay? And what is 9m minus 2m? That is 7m over 12. Now we have 7m over 12 over 7 divided by 5. Okay, now this looks tricky, but again, you know the basics. I'm actually just going to move this right over here so we have room. Okay, now what I would do here, okay, because we are dividing, and it actually would look better if I rewrote it like this, because maybe you watched my video where we multiplied and divided fractions. And remember, when you divide fractions, or you divide by a fraction, you have to do something called keep, change, and flip, right? This is what we're doing, right? In order to divide, we must keep, change, flip, because when we multiply, we could just multiply straight across. But in this case, we're dividing, and we need to keep, change, flip. And what I mean is you keep this 7m over 12, we change the sign to multiplication, and then we flip the fraction, and it looks like this. Keep, change, and then flip. And now we have a fraction that we're familiar with, and we could just multiply across. But here's a trick. Look at this. Before I even multiply across, what can I do with these 7s? I could actually cancel them out. Cancel it out. And then what I'm left with is m times 5, which is 5m over, and what is 12 times, there's nothing here, that's actually a 1. So I just carry this 12 over. And this, folks, is not my final answer. Okay? You may think it is, but it's not. But this equals only a. Okay? Remember, all this was a. Now we need to isolate for m. And this is easy arithmetic. Okay? This is rearranging a formula. And this is basic arithmetic. So 5m over 12 equals a, right? And I'm going to do it like this because it doesn't matter how I do it, right? So, because usually I would do it like this, a equals, and then solve, but it doesn't matter. You could do it like this. You could do it either way. So the first thing I would do is clear out the denominator. And in order to do that, I must multiply by 12. Multiply by 12. And then I must do it on the other side, giving me 5m equaling 12a. And then from here, we just divide by 5, canceling out the 5, divide by 5, leaving us with m. And I'm not going to rewrite it. I'm just going to box this up. And this is our final answer. M is equal to 12a divided by 5. And that, folks, is answer choice C. And there you have it. This was rearranging a formula. It was a complex fraction. It had many fractions. So the skills that you learn from this are finding a common denominator, distributing a negative. We combined like terms. We divided a fraction using keep, change, and flip. And we just isolated the target variable. There were many fundamentals in this question. and I hope that you were able to grasp them. Like this whole problem, this whole question could have been a whole video. There were so many nuggets here. Okay, moving on. Question number 2. Evaluate the expression when x equals -2 and y is equal to 3. So here, folks, this one's super easy. All you have to do is plug in this x and plug in this y in this expression, and we're just going to simplify. And I'm actually going to break this down into 2 parts. I'm just going to do, should we do the easy one? I don't know if we should. But if I just get this right here, okay, I'm actually going to get this whole thing, okay? I'm going to get this part, and I don't like that because the negative gets covered. So I'm going to go like this, and then this part right here in orange. And I'm going to do the blue part first. So I'm going to put the blue part, or I'm going to do the blue part right here, and then I'm going to put what we get over here. So I'm going to plug in the x, which is -2, and then plus, and then y is equal to 3. And then we're going to cube all this. And look at this, we have a negative. So this negative, this actually gets distributed, okay? This negative gets distributed. And what I mean by distributed is, just imagine like a 1 right here, okay? Right? It's going to get distributed to whatever's inside here. But first, before I distribute it, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just solve what's in the parentheses. And that's super easy. That's going to be, and I'm just going to keep this -1 here, okay? Just for us to look at it, okay? That's just there. You don't need to do this part, okay? This 1. What is -2 combined with +3? That's just going to give me 1, okay? I'm going to cube the 1, and that's just going to give me 1 again. And then what happens when you distribute this negative, which is a -1? Well, it just makes that 1 negative. So our final answer for that part is just -1. So -1. Let's go ahead and do the orange. The orange is a little bit more complicated. However, it's really simple, guys. All you have to do is arithmetic. Okay, it's about tracking what you're doing, making sure everything is correct, and that's really it. So let's go ahead and just do 3, and then this is -2 squared minus 2, -2, 3 minus 3. I'm going to put this in parentheses, squared. Everything is over x, which is -2, minus, and then y, 3. So let's go ahead and do it. So what is -2 squared, right? That is 4. What is 4 times 3? And I'm actually going to do it the long way, okay? Just so we don't make any mistakes. So -2 times -2, that's 4, okay? Minus, what is -2 times 3? I'm going to put this 2 right here. -2 times 3, that's -6. And then 3 times 3, 3 squared, that is 9. Everything is over -5. Because -2 minus 3 is -5. Okay, let's just simplify further. What is 3 times 4? That's 12. What is -2 times -6? That is positive 12. And what is, and this is -9 over -5. Okay. And then what I'm going to do next is I'm going to combine this. So 24 or 12 plus 12, that's 24, minus 9. That's going to give me 15, right? 24, that's going to give me 15. 15 over -5. And this one's easy. What is 15 divided by -5? This equals -3. So we're left with -3. So -3 was the orange, right? The -1 was the blue. And what's this? These two numbers combined. negative 3 minus 1. That is negative 4. So I'm just going to do this, or that looks like an inequality sign, and I don't want to do that. Equaling, and it's not equals, so that's why I'm going to make a dash. The simplified expression now is negative 4. Box that bad boy up, and there you have it. It is, in fact, B. Why do I know that? Because I have the answer key. Okay, that's it, folks. That is question number 2. The skills you learned: you substitute using parentheses, you evaluated exponents, you managed several negatives, and you had to follow the order of operations. All right, next question. Question number 3, find the next number in the series. Now, these questions, to some they are hard and to some they are easy. To me, they are actually pretty hard because on the test, when I took the test, I struggled with these. Okay, this is one of the many techniques that I am going to go over and I'm going to perform right now. So 108 to 246, 246 to 402, 402 to 576. First thing that I notice is, okay, they are increasing. So let's go ahead and do this. Let us find the differences between the numbers. So what is happening from here to here, here to here, here to here, right? So I'm just going to do some subtraction. So what is 246 minus 100, minus 108, right? Minus, you go like this, 16, you borrow from that 4, you get 16 minus 8, that equals 8. What is 3 minus 0? That equals 3. What is 2 minus 1? That is 138. So from here to the 246 is plus 138. Now what's happening from here to here? So I'm going to minus 402 minus 246. And I did kind of make this realistic because the IBEW does this where it's not like 8 minus 6 equaling 2. You know, you always got to borrow, and it kind of gets annoying when you have like my mind where I need to actually write everything out. This is going to equal a 9. So this is 12 minus 6, that equals 6. 9 minus 4, that equals, and this is going to be a 3. 9 minus 4, that equals 5. 3 minus 2, that equals 1. 156. So plus 156. Now 402 to 576. 576 minus 402. Minus 6 they gave us an easy one. 6 minus 2 is 4. Yay! 7 minus 0 is 7. Yay! 5 minus 4 is 1. And when I say they, I mean I did. Okay, because I created this. Okay, so plus 174. Okay, from 402 to 576. All right. Now, do we see anything happening here? Right? I actually do not see anything here because in order to get this question mark, I must get this middle number here, and I don't have that, right? So what I'm going to do next is find the differences in the differences. So 156 to 138. So I'm going to put that in a different color. So 156 minus 138, right? I'm going to borrow a 1 here, giving me 4. So 16 minus 8, that equals 8. 4 minus 3, that equals 1. So from here to here, plus 18. All right. So what's happening from 156 to 174? So I am going to perform another subtraction. And 14, this is going to give me 6. And 14 minus 6 equals 8. 6 minus 5 is equal to 1. So it gives me 18 again. All right. Now, looks like we have a pattern. two numbers are the same. So I'm going to apply this pattern to this next number, to 174. So what is 174 plus 18? That's 4 plus 8 is equal to 2. 1 plus 7 is 8, plus 1 again is 9. And then carry this 1 over, I get 192. Okay? And then I'm going to put this plus 192. And I'm going to add 192 to 576, and that will give me the next number in this series. Hopefully, right? There might be, you might end up having to do many trial and error when you are trying to find the number sequence. So 576 plus 192 is 6 plus 2 is 8. 9 plus 7 is 16, 1, and then this is 7. 7, 6, 8 is my final answer, and that is answer choice D. Okay. Now all you needed to do for this is find the differences and then find the differences of the differences. It sounds funny. Sounds like a paradox, but it's true. Okay. Let's go on to question number 4. Which expression is equivalent to what we have here? And folks, if you look at this, right, you're familiar with this, right? You're familiar with this, 4x minus 8 and then 2x plus 10. The first thing you would do, right, is you would FOIL, right? You would FOIL. And foiling is just performing 4 operations where you do this, where you multiply. Multiply 4x to 2x, 4x to 10, and then negative 8 to 2x, and negative 8 to 10, right? And then you would combine like terms, and then voila, you have your answer. You have your simplified expression, right? Or foiled expression. Well, I take it a step further and I add another binomial there. So first thing we would do is the same thing, right? As if this wasn't there. We would FOIL. We would FOIL this, only this. Let's just FOIL this, okay? We would perform the same operation. So what is 4x times 2x? That equals 8x squared. Now what is 4x times 10? That equals 40x. And then what is negative 8 times 2x? That equals negative 16x. And what is negative 8 times 10? That equals negative 80. Okay, perfect. Now let's combine like terms. So 8x squared. Okay. What is 40x minus 16x? That is positive 24x. And then minus 80. Now we're done with that part. We're done with foiling. Okay, now next we're going to have to multiply all of this to x minus 3. And this, you may not know what to do at first, but don't worry. You're watching this video and I got you. Something like this will be on the test. I did receive feedback that they did in fact see this. The person that I tutored did see this. So x squared plus 24x minus 80, and then all this multiplied by the binomial x minus 3. So what I would do here is all I'm going to do is multiply the 8x squared to x and the 8x squared to negative 3. And then I am going to multiply the 24x to x and 24x to negative 3. And then lastly, multiply the negative 80 by x and negative 80 by negative 3. You're going to be performing 6 operations. Okay? Super simple, guys. So let's go ahead and do them. 8x squared times x, that equals 8 8x cubed. What is 8x squared times negative 3? That equals negative 24x squared. Next, I have 24x times x. Let me write that out. 24x times x, that equals positive 24x squared. I see here I could cancel these two. And then 24x times negative 3, that equals, this one might be hard, but with practice you will know, this equals negative 72x. Okay? And then what I have next, I'm going to do in purple, negative 80 times x, that equals negative 80x. And then negative 80 times negative 3, and a negative times a negative equals a positive. That is 240. Okay, now let's go ahead and combine like terms. And I'm just going to erase a little part of this. Our final answer is going to be 8x cubed, 8x cubed. And then these could be canceled. So I don't need to write anything in those terms. Now, negative 72x plus negative 80x. What does that equal? That equals negative 152x. And then carry that positive 240 over here. And there you have it, folks. This is the final answer. And that is answer choice A. And let's see. Can I? No, I can't. So you would have to perform all the operations that I showed you to come up with this answer choice. You had to multiply 3 binomials, distribute negatives, and combine like terms. Okay, those are the skills that you learn from this question. You will see this on the test. And if not, you will definitely see where you will have 2 binomials to FOIL. Next question. Simplify the following expression. This one is just very long, okay? You will make many mistakes if you don't know what you're doing and if you are not careful, okay? So the first thing that I would do is I would distribute, okay? Distribute this 4, distribute this 4 over here, distribute this negative. Distribute this negative. Remember I said treat that negative like a negative 1. And distribute this negative 2 to all these 3 terms. So after you distribute this negative to the parentheses, then I would distribute this negative 2. So I will put that in orange just to show that this is what I'm going to do second. Okay. So let's go ahead and do this. We have what is 4 times 2j? That is 8j. And then I have negative 12k. And then I have 4 times 5. That is 20. Okay. All right, perfect. And then I have this negative 2. And I'm not going to do anything with that just yet. And I'm going to bring over this 3j. I'm not going to do anything with that yet. And then I'm going to distribute this negative. So I have negative 4k. And then I have plus 7. And I'm going to bracket this. And then I have minus 2j plus 8k minus 6. Okay, I think I've got everything. And then what I'm going to do next is I am going to get this right here. I'm going to multiply this negative 2 and distribute it to all these terms here. And I'm just going to do it right here at the top so I could rewrite everything later. So what I'm going to do is do this negative 6j, because negative 2 times 3j is negative 6j, and then plus 8k. Negative 2 times negative 4 is 8k, and then minus negative 2 times 7 is negative 14. Okay, now I'm going to rewrite everything. So then now I have 8j minus 12k. 8k plus 20 minus 6j plus 8k minus 14 minus 2j plus 8k minus 6. Now all we're going to do is combine like terms.
Super easy from this point.
So let's just write that in purple. 8j, okay, 8j and then minus 6j and then minus 2j. Okay, let's just cross them out because we're already using them. And what is 8j minus 6j minus 2j? And that is 0. Negative 6j minus 2j equals negative 8j, and then you combine that with a positive j, 8j, and then they cancel each other out. So let's go on to the next one. Negative 12k, and then I have plus 8k and another plus 8k. That's going to leave me with what is 8k plus 8k? That is 16k, combined with negative 12k, that equals positive 4k. Cuatro K. Yes, like the song. Okay. And then you have, I have 20 and then minus 14 and then minus 6. Well, this again, folks, equals 0. Negative 14 minus 6 is negative 20. Combined with a positive 20, cancels it out. And what we're left with is 4k. That's it. That is our final answer, and that is B. Okay. I hope you are following along. This, you have many, you have so much room for error. All right, so watch what you're doing. Make sure you are multiplying and, for example, carrying this negative in this parentheses, because if you don't do that, you're going to get a whole different answer. And these answer choices, I have designed them to, if you make that mistake, you will get one of them and you will confidently pick the wrong answer. Okay, so next question, question number 6. Which expression is the completely factored form of 36ux squared minus 174ux plus 180u? Okay, this one is a difficult problem. The first thing that you are going to do is you are going to identify the greatest common factor. And folks, remember, when you get the greatest common factor, you're just pulling something out, okay? And let me demonstrate. So I'm going to get this right here. There are 2 terms that we could take out. We can't take anything out from the x's because there's no x here. But we could take out a term from the numbers and we could take something out from the u's, okay? So what can I take out? Or before I even ask that question, I am going to put an underline over here and over here, and then I'm going to put one right here, and then I know I'm going to be left with an x squared, and then another right here, and then another right here, and I know I'm going to be left with an x, and then another right here to represent the 180, and then another right here to represent the u. Okay? So what I'm going to do is divide something out. And what can divide cleanly out of all the number terms? Well, that answer is 6. I could divide out 6. Okay? You need to know, you don't need to know this exactly, like memorize, but you're going to have to perform fast arithmetic. Okay? So 36 divided by 6, that is 6. So I'm going to put a 6 right here. And I'm actually, before I even do that calculation, remember to put a 6 right here because this is the number you are dividing out. And then what is 174 divided by 6? That is 29. Okay. What is 180 divided by 6? That is 30. And I forgot to put a plus sign right here. Okay. And then now with the u's. Well, the greatest common factor for the u's is just u itself, right? I could take out a u. And then I'm just going to do this. There we go. I could take out a u. And then a u divided by a u is just 1, right? So then I have a 1. I'll put a 1 here and put a 1 over here. So all I did here, right, this is 6 times 1 times x squared, negative 29 times 1 times x, and this is 30 times 1. Okay? What we're left with when we take out the greatest common factor, what we're left with is 6u, and then this is 6x squared. Okay? We don't rewrite the 1. Okay? Minus 29x, and then plus 30. Okay. There we have it, folks. And the thing is, we're not done yet. Okay, now we're going to do something called the AC method. And first, before doing the AC method, you need to understand what we're doing here. Okay, initially, or is that the word? Usually, you would have something like this, and then you would find two terms multiplied together equaling this. And then when those same two terms combine together will equal this. However, we have an A, right? This is an A. This is the A spot. We have an A that is greater than 1. So I have to perform something called the AC method. And all that is you multiply the A by the 30. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to do that right here. This is the AC method. Okay, and that equals 6 times 30, and that equals 180. Now, from here, we do what we usually do. So what is 180? What are two terms multiplied together, right, equaling 180? And then when those same two terms combine together, equaling negative 29x, we have to find two values. And those two values are, I have to think for a little bit. Those two values, well, let's just write them down, okay? They are going to be, I think it's negative 20 times negative 9. Yes, okay, yeah, there you go. Those are the two terms, negative 20 times negative 9, okay? So when we multiply these two together, that equals 180, right? And then when we combine the two, negative 20, let me just write it out for you, negative 20 minus 9, that equals negative 29. All right, perfect, we found it. Now, what we're going to do is I am going to rewrite everything like this. 6u, I have to split this middle term. That's what I am about to show you. I'm going to split the middle term because we found the 2. Okay, so 6x squared, and then minus, I'm going to do minus 9. Okay, and then minus 20 plus 30. Okay, and then I forgot to put the x's here. All right, perfect. And now what I'm going to do from here is I'm going to group these, okay? I'm going to group this 6x squared and this negative 9x, and then this negative 20x with this 30, okay? And now what I'm going to do here is again take out, I'm going to factor again. I am going to factor. And now, what am I going to do when I factor? What can be taken out from this 6x squared and this negative 9x? So I'm going to rewrite this 6u. And what can be taken out? Well, what can be taken out is 3x. Okay, you have to divide this by 3. That's going to leave me with, divide by 3, that's going to leave me with 2. Divide this by x, that's going to give me x, minus, and then divide this by 3, that's going to give me 3, and divide this by x, that's just going to give me 1, and that's nothing, okay? So now I have 3 and then 2x minus 3. Yes, 2x minus 3. Now what I'm going to do is do the same thing here, and what can be taken out, and that is a negative 10. Okay, so I'm going to put negative 10 over here. And then I'm left with what is negative 20 divided by negative 10? That's going to give me 2. And then the x just carries over, 2x. And I just want to rewrite this, okay? Minus 10. And then I get 2x. And then what is 30 divided by negative 10? That's going to give me negative 3. And then now I am going to group these two. I'm going to group the 3x and the negative 10, and this 2x minus 3 could be grouped together, leaving me with 6u. And then you get 3x minus 10. It doesn't really matter how you write it. And then 2x minus 3. And that is the completely factored form of 36ux squared minus 174ux plus 180u. That was a monster. Okay, that one was complicated. And that, folks, is answer choice C. Okay, you have to identify the GCF, use the AC method, split the middle term after doing the AC method, and then factor by grouping. And that's factoring by grouping this portion right here, or this whole big portion right here, factoring by grouping. Okay, you will see this on the test. You might even see this in reverse, where you're given this, and then you have to get this right here. All right. Good luck. But don't worry. I don't know why you're worrying. I'm not worried for you because I have full confidence in your abilities because you are watching this video. Okay? All right, question number 7. Which graph does not represent a linear function? Okay. This one's a breather. Okay? This one's intentionally easy because all I'm going to do is I'm going to find what is not a linear function. And folks, what is a linear function? A linear function is just a straight line like this, going up left to right, going up from left to right, or going down from left to right. Okay, this is a negative slope. This is a positive slope. This is a positive slope. And this one right here, this one, that is not a linear function. So not a linear function, that's A. Okay? You might get a question like this. It could be a filler question, and it would be a great time for you to breathe. Okay, the only thing that you would need to do is make sure to read the question. It says not represent a linear function, and you know what a linear function is, and it's one of these. Okay, this is like y is equal to like this or something, or maybe like this. Okay. All right. Anyway, that's it for question number 7. Also, though, guys, for question number 7, they might throw a problem at you, or like a function like y is equal to negative, or like not negative, but square root, and then x minus 1 and minus 2y, or something like this. I don't know. I just wrote some words down. And then you would have to do something like cancel out something here. And at first you would think like, oh my gosh, this is not a linear function, but it's a trick question for you to cancel out things here because you should know the fundamentals. They assume you know the fundamentals. You cancel out some stuff, and then it does equal a linear function. Okay? You might look at it and be like, that's definitely not a linear function. Why is this on the test? But if you cancel some stuff out, it could equal, and most likely will equal, a linear function. Okay, which ordered pair solves the system? All right, so this one's hard on purpose. This one's hard for no reason, actually. This one just has many fractions, and in this case, I just wanted you to get used to looking and seeing fractions and not getting scared, not being afraid when it happens. So this is just basic arithmetic. It's just going to be a lot. And you might come across something like this on the test. So let's just go ahead and work with the first equation here, the first formula. So what is 3/4 times 2x? What is 3/4 times 4y? What is -1/2 times x? And what is -1/2 times 2y? So let's go ahead and perform those operations. And remember, when you multiply with fractions, you just multiply across. Okay, so, and then you have to divide. Remember that. So let's just go over that right now. What is 3 times 2x? That is 6x. And then divide by 4. And then minus, this is 12y, divide by 4. And then minus, and then I have, all I have here is 1/2 x. And then I have plus, and then 2 over 2y. And I want to actually do this where it all fits onto the whole screen. I don't like when it goes out here. Man, I write really small or really big. There's just no in between. Okay, so let's go ahead and do this. Let's go simplify. 3x divided by 4. We could simplify that by dividing the top and the bottom by 2, giving us 3x over 2, and then minus 3y, because 12y divided by 4 is 3y, and then minus 1/2 x, and then -2 over 2 is just going to give us -1, and then that's just actually going to give us -y, okay, equaling 15. And then we could combine these, okay? 3x minus 1/2 x is going to give us 2x over x. So let's just go ahead and write that. 3x over 2 minus 1/2 x. Well, what does that look like? 3 minus 1 is 2. And then 2, just since they're the same denominator, carry that over. 2 over 2. And that just equals x. So then I'm left with x minus, what is -3y minus y? That's 4y equaling 15. Okay, perfect. That is our first formula. So I am going to put this here, minus 4y equaling 15. Okay, now let's go ahead and do the second one. So I do 2/3 times 3x. That's going to give me 6x over 3. And then plus 12y over 3. And then minus 2 over 2x. And then minus, or that's plus, because a negative times a negative equals a positive. And that's 4 halves y equals -5. Okay, let's just simplify. This is 2x plus 4y minus x plus 2y equals -5. 2x minus x is x, and then 4y plus 2y equals 6y equals -5. Now we have two simplified formulas here, okay? And now what we could do from here is we could use a method called the substitution method. Or no, I'm not going to use substitution. Let's use elimination. That one's easier. So I want to eliminate a variable so I could find the other variable. And I'm going to eliminate the x. So I'm going to multiply the whole top by just negative. Just switch the sign. That's all I'm going to do. Okay, and I have to do it on the left side and the right side. So now I'm left with -x. Switch the sign is 4y. And then switch the sign, that's -15. And then I have x minus 6y equals -5. I'm going to cancel these two out, combine these, and is that, it's plus 6y. I'm sorry, it's plus 6y. And then this equals 10y equals negative 20. Okay. And divide by 10, that's going to give me y is equal to negative 2. And I see a negative 2 in the y position in the ordered pair. And honestly, I could stop right there. If I was taking this test, I would stop right there because there are no other answer choices here that have a negative 2. But for the sake of the video, let's just plug in this y equals negative 2 inside one of these formulas. And I'm going to choose the top one. So I have I have x minus 4 negative 2 equaling 15. That's x minus 8. And that's going to be positive 8 equals 15. And then minus 8, that's going to give me x is equal to 7. Our ordered pair is 7, comma, negative 2. And that is answer choice D. And you could plug in this y equals negative 2 into this formula too as well, and you will get a 7. Okay, this ordered pair, 7, comma, negative 2, solves the system. Okay, perfect. Question number 9. Consider the following formula. You get this right here, 3 times 4z minus 10 minus 2 in parentheses z plus t equals 5r. Okay, which of the following statements is not true? Make sure to read the question. We're looking for something that is not true. That means there are going to be 3 answer choices that will be true. Okay? The first thing I would do here is
panic.
I hate these. These ones are my nightmare. Okay? It actually took me a long time to learn this. And every time I make these questions, I have to relearn them every time. But I am going to hopefully make it super simple for you guys. Okay? The first thing that I would do here is I would simplify this formula. Okay? Let's simplify this. So let us distribute, right? Distribute. Okay? So then I get 12z minus 3t minus 2z and then minus 2t equals 5r. And then let's combine like terms, giving me 10z minus 5t equals 5r. I could divide everything by 5, giving me z minus, and that's 2z, and then minus t equaling r. And then I'm just going to rewrite it. R is equal to, and I'm going to put this over to the left because we will need that, okay? I will need this. R is equal to 2z minus t. And let me just, that looks so ugly, okay? I want it to be neat over here because it's going to stay here. R is equal to 2z minus t, okay? Now, let's go ahead and test our answer choices here, okay? Notice we have 3 variables. And in this case, I am just going to test each statement here. So let's go ahead and do this. We start with the first answer choice here, we start with t, and this is greater than 2z, and then r is going to be negative, right? So what I'm going to do is I am going to solve this inequality to put 0 on the other side. And let me just demonstrate. I'm going to minus t, okay? Minus t, and I'm just going to get rid of this, this right here. And I get 0 greater than 2z minus t, okay? And I'm actually going to put this on this side, okay? Giving me 2z minus t, and then I have to switch the inequality sign whenever I do that, giving me 0 over here. And then what does 2z minus t equals? Well, from here, it equals r. So I could do this, r, and then this is 0. R less than 0 or negative. So in fact, if t greater than 2z, if this, right, then r is negative. And yes, in fact, r is negative. Okay, all we had to do was make this 0, right? Make it equal to 0, then switch our, replace 2z minus t for our equation that we already found out. And then we get the inequality, or not inequality, but we get that r is negative. If we plug in numbers, we will in fact get r being negative. Okay, but I'm going to do this without plugging in numbers. Okay, let's go ahead and do the other one. So now we're testing t less than 2z. I'm going to do exactly what I did before. I'm going to minus t. I get 0 less than 2z minus t. I'm going to switch it where I get r, or not r. I'm going to switch it to where I get this 2z minus t to the left side. So I go 2z minus t and then 0, right? Less than 0. And then, actually, no, sorry. When you switch it, you have to switch the inequality too as well. I see there's a blue dot over here. And then I could replace this 2z minus t with r, giving me r, and then greater than 0. This equals positive, right? R being positive, this is actually true, okay? You see what I'm doing here? All I'm doing is setting it to 0, putting this on the other side, right? So I could replace it with this constant that we have. And the reason why I switch it to is so we could read it properly. Okay, you can just do it like this, where you have 0 and then r, but reading it is kind of weird. It's better when you have the variable on the other side. Okay, from left to right. It's better when you're reading from left to right. So let's go ahead and test the last one. And I'm going to do that in purple. If r equals 0, then t equals 2z. So let's go ahead and do that with our equation that we have here, right? If r equals 0, okay, let's do this. 0, okay, r is equal to 0, 2z minus t, then t equals 2z. So let's just go ahead and do that. Plus t, t is equal to 2z. Exactly that. This is true. Okay? So remember, we're looking for something that is not true. So this is true, and this is true. That means that this is wrong, and this is wrong. Now it says here, if r is negative, then t is less than 2z. Well, we actually got the opposite of this. Because look, if t is less than 2z, then r is positive. We proved that. Then if it says it's negative, well, that's wrong. That is incorrect, making us go with answer choice D. So answer choice D is the correct answer. Okay, I did no plugging in numbers. I did no cutoffs. Okay, there was just a few steps that I had to perform. Okay, I had to, 1, simplify this by distributing and combining like terms. I find the 0 boundary for each of these. Okay, when I just isolate and make it to 0, right? Get a 0, and then I just replace that 2z minus, well, something happened. When I get this 2z minus t, right here, I just replace it with my r, and then I get the statement, right? That's all you have to do. It sounded confusing, and I hope I didn't, just word vomit, but usually what I do is I plug in numbers, but in this case, you don't have to do that. Okay? Let's go ahead and move on to question number 10. That one was, if I've been saying that the other questions were very hard, this one is ultra hard. Okay? And the thing is, the test will be made up of many of these. Okay, I've heard that sometimes a test could have 25% of just these questions, and that's a lot of problems. Okay. Question number 10. Which values of x satisfy the equation? All right. Okay. So look here. What we have here is a negative exponent. And when you have a negative exponent, that equals 1 over and then whatever the value is. Okay. Let me just change my colors. So again, it's just 1 over whatever the number is. So what is 2 to the power of 4? 2 to the power of 4 is 2 times 2 equaling 4. Okay, that's 2 to the power of 2, or yes, 2 to the power of 2, 2 squared. And then you have 2 cubed, which is 4 times 2. That equals 8. And then 2 to the power of 4. So you have 8 times 2. That equals 16. So this 2 to the power of 4 to negative 4 is 16. Okay, 2 to the power of 4 is 16. 2 to the power of negative 4 is 1 over 16. So that's something that that you should know. Okay, I briefly go over it in many of my videos, but it's been a long time since I even saw this. Okay, so let's go ahead and perform the first operation, which is we have to cross multiply. That's what I would do. Okay, I would cross multiply. So 2 to the power of negative 4, and I'm just going to put that in parentheses, and then multiplied by 16 equals, and then I have to write smaller, 2 power to the negative 3, and then multiplied by x squared minus 6x plus 16. Okay. Let's go ahead and work with the left side. So 2 to the power of negative 4, remember what we said that was? That was 1 over 16. And then multiplied that by 16. Well, what's 16 times 1 to the 16? 1 over 16? We could just cross this out. And that equals 1. 1. Okay? Equals. And then 2 to the power of negative 3. That is 1 over 8. And then multiplied by x squared minus 6x plus 16. Okay? We're just going to put all this on top, okay? That's going to give me 1 is equal to x squared. Actually, what would I do first? Let me think about that first. Do I just put it over 6x plus 16 divide by 8? Yes, I would actually do that. Okay. I will put that all over 8. And then what I'm going to do from here is I'm going to multiply by 8, canceling this 8, multiply 8 on this side. And then that's going to give me 8 is equal to x squared minus 6x plus 16. Okay, perfect. Now let me just erase everything. So after you realize that 2 to the power of negative 4 is just 1 over 16, and this one is just 8 or 1 over 8, then it's just kind of easy from there. So I have 8 is equal to x squared minus 6x plus 16. Okay. The next thing I would do after this is I would get rid of this 8. I would minus 8 now, minus 8 to make this 0, giving me 0 is equal to x squared minus 6x plus 8. Okay. And then what I would do is factor. So what two values multiplied together equals 8 and then combine equals negative 6? Well, that is going to be x minus 2 and then x minus 4. Yes. Okay. Equaling 0. And then you would use the 0 product rule. And then the 0 product rule is you just get each binomial and you just set it to 0. That's it. And then you plus 2, then you get x is equal to 2. And then let's do the x minus 4 equals 0, plus 4, then you get x is equal to 4. So these two values of x satisfy the equation, and that is answer choice B. Okay. There you have it, folks. I think it's better when I highlight it, huh? Okay, there you have it. Question 10 is complete. All right. So, next part is the reading comprehension section. And what I did with this was I created a passage and then I got 3 of the hardest question types. And those are the main idea, and that is the passage's central point. The inference question, that is something we determine from clues that are not directly stated. And then the author's purpose. Why did the author write the passage? Okay? What I want you to do in this section, well, first thing, let's just take a break. I'm going to take a break. I have been doing math for over an hour, and I am going to take a break. And I recommend you take a break before reading this passage because it will hurt your brain. I made it hard. Okay, I made this hard on purpose. So take a break. Watch me play some games or something. Or you play some games. The new Halo did come out. That's where I got the inspiration to write this passage. I hope you have taken a break. I went to the bathroom. Okay, let us go with the passage. Let us read the passage and listen to how I read the passage, and that is how I want you to read the passage. Okay? When most people hear the word Spartan, they think of Master Chief. But John 1:17 represents one chapter in a larger history. The first attempt, Project Orion, enhanced adult soldiers, but its results were limited. Years later, Dr. Catherine Halsey developed the Spartan 2 program during a period of growing human rebellion. Its candidates, including John, were secretly taken as children, trained, and physically altered to become elite soldiers. They were originally intended to fight human insurrectionists. Yet the arrival of the Covenant transformed them into humanity's defenders. Their success made Spartans legendary, but it also concealed the moral costs of how they had been created. The Spartan 3 program responded to a different crisis. As the war against the Covenant worsened, the UNSC needed more soldiers at a lower cost. Young war orphans were recruited in larger numbers and trained for extremely dangerous operations. These Spartans were effective, but many were sent on missions with little chance of survival. Their history shows that the program was not simply producing stronger warriors, it was adapting to humanity's desperation. After the Covenant War, the Spartan 4 program changed the meaning of the title again. Instead of taking children, it selected experienced adult service members who chose to undergo augmentation. The new approach relied more on advanced technology and allowed recruits to bring established skills, loyalties, and personalities into the program. By then, becoming a Spartan was no longer defined by one secret process or one generation. Across Orion and the Spartan 2, 3, and 4 programs, recruitment methods and missions changed dramatically. What remained constant was the belief that extraordinary soldiers could protect humanity when ordinary forces were not enough. The history of the Spartans is therefore both a story of survival and a record of how far humanity was willing to go to achieve it. Okay, question 11. Which statement best expresses the main idea of the passage? Okay, remember, the main idea answer must cover the entire passage, not merely one accurate event, or in this case, one Spartan generation. Because if you took some mental notes, this was about the Spartans, right? From the Project Orion to the Spartan 2 program, Spartan 3 program, Spartan 4 program, and the overall summary of all of them, or like the reason why they were made and how they were made and what they impacted in each generation, right? Okay, let's read each answer choice carefully. The Spartan programs became more ethical as the UNSC replaced secret child recruitment with voluntary adult service. Well, I think this one's incorrect because it is too narrow. Okay, it focuses too much on ethics and recruitment. Okay, we need something more. Okay. The Covenant War transformed Spartans from weapons against human rebels into humanity's primary defense against extinction. That's kind of true. Again, it's narrow because this focuses on just the Spartan 2s, right? It only goes with because the Spartan 2s, it says here that they were made to fight human insurrectionists, and then the Covenant came, and then now they're humanity's defenders. Well, that's not the main idea. That's just one part. It's just way too narrow. Okay, let's go ahead with answer choice C. Although Spartan programs differed in recruitment and purpose, each reflected humanity's willingness to create extraordinary soldiers for survival. That covers the whole passage, right? Just like I said in the beginning, this whole passage talked about Spartan programs and the differences, or not the differences, but the purposes of each. And it adds more by saying humanity's willingness to create extraordinary soldiers for survival, because these soldiers, these Spartans, were created for survival, first against humans and then against the Covenant, who have been invading and winning the war. Okay, let's read answer choice D. Advances in augmentation allowed each Spartan generation to become more effective while requiring fewer personal sacrifices. This is incorrect because this is unsupported by the passage. Completely unsupported, because it says advances in augmentation. Well, the only augmentation that happened was in the Spartan 2 program. Augmentation didn't happen in the Spartan 3 program. I believe people were just recruited, right? It says here, young war orphans were recruited in larger numbers. So these were just, I wouldn't even count Spartan 3s as Spartans, real Spartans, because they had no augmentation, right? If you play the game, you would know that Spartans are much taller, super human compared to regular humans. So I would imagine Spartan 3s were smaller than the Spartan 2s and Spartan 4s because they didn't have augmentation. But I digress there. Over here, it does say advances in augmentation, which tells me that this is going to be false, giving me more confidence that C is the correct answer. So I'm going to choose C as the correct answer, and that is the correct answer because it covers the whole passage. C covers the whole passage. So let's go ahead with question 12. Which of the following can reasonably be inferred by the passage? And again, an inference question asks us to combine evidence from the passage and determine something that is not directly stated. Okay? The correct answer must be a reasonable conclusion without adding unsupported information. Now, I read that, and that sounds like you gotta read someone's mind, right? But it's something, we're looking for something that is not directly stated. So let's go ahead and read the answer choices here. Spartan 4 recruits required little training because they already had military experience. Okay. I want to say this is incorrect. I want to say this is incorrect because it's an unsupported assumption. This assumes experienced recruits needed little training, but nowhere in here did it say that or imply that. So I'm going to say A is incorrect. B says advances in technology likely made adult augmentation more practical than it had been during Orion. Okay, this I'm going to put as possibly correct. Let's just read the other answer choices here. And the reason why is because we see the advances from Orion all the way to the Spartan 4 program. And the Spartan 4 program did have, or the Spartan 2, Spartan 3, and Spartan 4 programs did have advances in technology. That's it, just advances in technology. So answer choice C, it says here, heavy Spartan 3 losses caused the UNSC to end the recruitment of young candidates. And that is wrong. That is incorrect because it assumes a cause the passage never gives, right? The passage says many Spartan 3s were sent, where does it say that? Many Spartan 3s were sent on missions with little chance of survival. It later says Spartan 4 recruited adults. However, it never states that Spartan 3 losses caused the UNSC to stop recruiting young candidates. Okay, this choice turns two separate facts into unsupported cause and effect relationship. Okay, that's what makes C incorrect. Now let's go ahead and go on to answer choice D. The UNSC created Spartan 4 mainly to correct the moral failures of earlier programs. Well, this is incorrect. Okay, it assumes the UNSC's main motivation, and it assumes that correcting earlier moral failures was the main reason for creating the Spartan 4 program. That makes this incorrect. So I'm going to go with answer choice B, and let's see what I have here on my notes. So the passage tells us Project Orion enhanced adults but achieve limited results. And then the passage also tells us Spartan 4s returned to adult recruits and relied more heavily on advanced technology. By connecting these details, we can reasonably infer that advances in technology made augmenting adults more practical than it had been during Orion. The word likely is important. Okay, the word likely is important. But okay, I digress there. Really, I already said that, okay, that there was progress from Orion all the way to the Spartan 4 program, which gives us more confidence that advanced technology likely made the adult augmentation more practical. So there you have it, folks. Answer choice B is the correct answer. I hope that I'm just not word vomiting, okay? Because these answer choices are hard, okay? Even the main idea was kind of trippy. So bear with me while I do my best to explain these. Okay, because really, like, how I want to explain these questions is like, it's there, bro. Like, it's just read the passage, right? But it's very difficult to explain reading the passage, especially when I made really difficult questions that or answer choices that could be correct. Okay. Let's go ahead and go on to question 13. What is the author's primary purpose in writing the passage? And remember, an author's primary purpose, it asks why the author wrote the passage. The correct answer must describe what the author does throughout the entire passage and the larger idea the author wants the readers to understand. So let's go ahead and read each answer choice. To show... Answer choice A says, to show that changing recruitment methods gradually made the Spartan programs more ethical. And no, this doesn't give me it doesn't give me enough evidence, right? This is an oversimplification of the history, right? I think it focuses too heavily on programs becoming more ethical, and the passage does present their history as a gradual ethical improvement. Okay, so I'm going to say that this one is wrong. Let's go ahead with answer choice B. To explain why each Spartan program replaced a previous generation that had become ineffective. Okay. This one incorrect because it creates an unsupported reason. It incorrectly assumes that every new program replaced one that had become ineffective, right? What this is saying is like, oh, the Spartan 4 program was made because the Spartan 3 program didn't work. Well, the Spartan 3 did actually work. It's just that it worked for a different cause. And then the Spartan 2 program worked because it was made for the human insurrectionists. And then the Covenant came, and now the Spartan 2 program took over battling the Covenant, right? Then the Covenant War was raging on, and then they needed more Spartans, and they were like, all right, we can't augment kids anymore. We have to recruit adults. And that's where the Spartan 3 program came in. So that's why answer choice B is incorrect. It has a unsupported reason. Okay. Let's go ahead with answer choice C. To compare how Spartan programs balance advanced technology with military experience. Well, that's just too narrow because this just focuses on the Spartan 4 program. Okay. This focuses mainly on technology and experience associated with just the Spartan 4 program. So C is incorrect. Now that leaves us with D and the correct answer: to trace how Spartan programs evolved under changing pressure while examining the human cost of survival. And that's just the peanut butter jelly sandwich put together, right? That's all of it. And cut up in squares or triangles, however you want it. Okay? This gives us everything. This gives us the Spartan program did evolve, right? Project Orion enhanced adults, but the results were limited. You know, we got very limited detail about that, but we learn about Project Orion. And then then the Spartan 2 program came up, and that came up because of the human insurrectionists, and then later on they battled the Covenant. So we're seeing here that it's evolving. And then due to the Covenant war going on for so long, and we're probably losing lots of Spartan 2s, we needed more Spartans. So the Spartan 3 program came along. And then after the Covenant War, the Spartan 4 program came along, which probably the secret was out, and now they need adults, or they didn't use children anymore because the secret was out, and now they're using adults. So we see that there is an evolution of the program, right? That alone is enough information for me to choose answer choice D as the correct answer. And I guess the kicker is while examining the cost of human cost of survival, right? So there you have it, folks. That concludes sample practice test number 2. And my gosh, that takes a long time. That's like almost as long as a practice tests, but just because we have the reading portion. The reading portion does take a lot of time. But I hope you learned a lot from this video. I hope that you've gained many golden nuggets, because the thing is, I want you to get the fundamentals down. Okay, the questions that I do make are difficult. I make them hard on purpose, but they are not impossible, because all you need to know are the basics, the fundamentals. And I do teach the fundamentals. I always teach the fundamentals. Okay, refer back to my previous videos where I do teach the fundamentals, and I do just watch my playlist, guys. Just watch my playlists. You will pass the test when you watch my videos. I have met many positive feedbacks, positive comments under all my videos. Just watch my videos. Don't pay a dime. Break the paywall. That's the mission statement, guys. To create the largest library possible a free test prep on YouTube and to help as many people as I can, and that includes you. So guys, that's all I leave you with. Markyfbaby out. I will see you on the next video. Bye! This is my Gundam with no head, and these are the legs.